Hey guys, how's it going? Jay here. Check it out. Check what I have here now. I have the Holo Audio May DAC, which is their flagship DAC. And then I have the Terminator PLUS from Denafrips, which is their flagship DAC back in here. I'm speechless. I was able to compare these DACs, side by side for the past few months. And when I say few months, I mean like months. So I do have to apologize for to Denafrips and both Holo Audio for taking so long. But the reason being is people have been reaching out and asking me, which one is better, the Terminator PLUS or the Holo Audio May DAC? Which one should I get? And that's the question that I really have been asking myself all this time. Which one would I choose and which one would I recommend more? But there is no clear winner. And that's so odd to me at the same time because these two DACs are nothing alike. They're kind of totally different. So I want to tell you what those differences are, but even with my preference, I don't really have a preference for one or the other. I want both of them. And I'm not just saying that, it's like having two speakers. One does something really, really well, but the other one does other things really, really well too. So first of all, both of these DACs are R2R DAC topology, which means that they use ladder DACs instead of off-the-shelf chips like Delta Sigma chips like AKM, Saber. They don't use those. They use ladders. Now, this is not a new technology. These are technology that is really, really old and has been actually, with modern day technology, become a lot more precise with a lot of errors removed with better designs. So, in my opinion, R2R DACs have been always the king and the winner in terms of how it sounds. I just love the R2R sound. And I've been saying from day one, R2R for the win. And it just so happens, in 2021, a lot of people are preferring ladder DAC sound to, in comparison to like Sigma Delta chip, DAC chips that's everywhere inside everything. So to me, R2R designs are much like tube amplifiers or tube gear that doesn't necessarily measure very well, but sounds amazing. These days, even R2R DACs like the Holo Audio May and the Denafrips Terminator PLUS measure extremely, extremely well. So, what's the cross line here, right? There's no downside at this point. Well, I'm sure people can come up with it, but in my opinion, R2R DACs for the win. So we're now talking about flagship, top of the line DACs, people who have money to spare and spread. So let's start off with the build quality of the Holo Audio. The Holo Audio is a beautiful, beautiful DAC. I mean, holy crap. The black and copper look. By the way, you may hear background noise because we're making Halloween dinner. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So here, like black and copper, like I said, I'm a bit biased. It's just, I just love the look. The remote, external power supply. So this is the external power supply for this unit, and it's connected with a umbilical cord that is given to you when you buy the unit, and then the Kitsune beautiful logo. Beautiful. Focus on that. God. Focus. There you go. Okay. So, and then the Denafrips, however, is just kind of plain looking, but also very nice. Like, you get the Denafrips beautiful engraving here. The front panel is a little bit slightly curved. It's a beautiful unit as well. And it's very chunky looking. I mean, it's like bigger than my Denafrips amplifier over there. Kind of crazy. So even though the power supply is both comparable, in my opinion, I like the Holo Audio separate DAC, it's entirely separate chassis design when it comes to the power supply. And also, I love the look in general. I like it better than the Terminator PLUS, which has more of an industrial look to it. Now, when it comes to the build quality, both are phenomenal inside and out. Holo Audio uses like Mundorf capacitors and really high quality, silver wiring and all these crazy stuff inside. If you go to their website, they have it opened up and they show you the internals. I'm not gonna do that here because opening both the Terminator and the Holo Audio May is gonna be quite a bit of work. and I don't want to do that. But here, they have really high quality components in both units. So in terms of build quality, the components and the craftsmanship, overall, like both are very comparable. But if I have to give an edge, I would personally give it to the Kitsune, the Holo Audio May DAC, because of the looks and also because I feel like it uses a little bit of a higher quality component here and there. I think it's a little bit better built. So let's talk about the sound though, because the sound is important. That's what this is all about. Now, the Holo Audio May DAC is a smooth sounding DAC. I mean, it is extremely smooth. And I remember when I reviewed the Spring 2 DAC from Holo Audio, I said smooth, smooth, smooth. So many times people were saying, how many times are you gonna say that? You know, take a shot when Jay says smooth every single time and you'll be drunk by the end of the video. And it's all true. And the reason I say that is because the first word that comes to your mind is smooth. It is so silky smooth. I'm gonna keep saying it. But basically, what this is compared to the Spring 2, for example, is this is more resolute. The soundstage is larger, imaging is better, separation is better, almost every little nuance is better. And the high frequency smoothness is just so silky. That's another word, silky. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's the thing. You know, my friend Tujin, he hates, bright sounding speakers. So that means like Vocal, BMW, Klipsch, some of the Klipsch is a no-go for him. But when I had speakers in here, and yes, we went through a lot of speaker pairings with this combination right here. When I pair it up with the Denafrips, sometimes he is not able to take it because the Denafrips have all these detail and nuances and micro details in the mid-range and the high frequency, and it extends and it's open sounding, and it can get bright depending on the pairing. Whereas the Holo Audio May DAC, it doesn't matter what speaker you pair it up with, Tujin will be able to handle it. He finds it not bright. And I have to agree with him on that. Whenever the Holo Audio May DAC is in my setup, it's almost like there's no brightness whatsoever. Everything is so smooth and silky, and it really takes away the edges, so to speak, so that the music is enjoyable for long periods of time. Now, I did find though, the Terminator Plus has a wow factor. Like when you plug in the Terminator Plus after the Holo Audio, it's an immediate wow factor. Like you hear more detail and there's like sparkles and stuff happening and the nuances and micro details coming at you, you're like, what's going on? Oh my god, like I'm in an alternate space. But with Holo Audio, you don't quite get that. So with the Terminator Plus, it's a more exciting experience. But for long periods of listening, I think I may prefer the Holo Audio. See my dilemma here? The Terminator Plus is a very impressive DAC, yet the Holo Audio is also a very impressive DAC in its own way. It really depends on what you're looking for. In terms of resolution, right, the Terminator Plus, in my opinion, is a clear winner because the high frequency extension, all the little micro nuances, but at times it can get fatiguing, right? There's a lot of information happening. But with the Holo Audio, there's no detail loss, but the micro nuances are a little bit more pulled back, sound stage is a little bit more pulled back, less in your face, and it's kind of holographics around you. So it's a little bit of a different sound. Well, not a little bit, quite a bit of a different sound. But both are really good at what it does. And it's interesting because both are R2R designs. Now, when it comes to the bass though, bass, I feel like, again, the bass amount is about the same. Like there's not much difference, but because of the overall sound characteristic, the rest of the frequencies, it may seem like the May DAC is a little bit more bass oriented. But if you objectively like listen carefully, the bass amount is about the same. Like you can't say one is more than the other. The Terminator Plus sounds more clean sounding, so everything seems more clear and less clustered. But that doesn't mean the May DAC sounds clustered either. It's just smooth and everything is connected and not really separated distinctively with empty spaces in between, if that makes sense. In terms of sound staging, how wide it sounds and how deep it sounds, I would say the Holo audio is more deep sounding, so it becomes like way behind the speakers. Whereas the Denafrips Terminator PLUS is a little bit more forward sounding in terms of the sound staging. In terms of width, I would say they're about the same. I think that because I would say they're about the same for that one. It's very little difference. I would say if I have to give an edge, I would say it's the Holo audio that has a little bit more of a holographic sound to it. But imaging wise, Terminator PLUS is a clear winner because the separations are just dead on, just nuanced, just dead on. It's incredible. It's very, very, just, so incredible. Like every time I think about it, it just impresses you every single time. Both of these DACs, but especially the Terminator PLUS, just so impressive every single time. You're like, whew, that's a change. Now, I also have to mention that one person may prefer the Holo audio or the Terminator PLUS based on their settings. So here's the thing. The Holo audio DAC is probably the only DAC that is truly non-oversampling around this price point. Most DACs, including the Terminator PLUS and Denafrips DACs, they do have non-oversampling mode, but it's not truly non-oversampling. For the Holo Audio May, it has modes, so it can go oversampling, oversampling PCM, oversampling DSD, and non-oversampling. Non-oversampling is what I preferred it at. Basically, it means that it doesn't oversample, meaning whatever file is given to it is what it plays. And the Denafrips also has oversampling and non-oversampling right here, OS/NOS, but it's not true NOS. It's not truly non-oversampling. And that is the reason why some people like my Patreon Golden Sound, he has his own YouTube channel as well, by the way. He measured it and he did a bunch of things with it, but he prefers at the end of the day the non-oversampling mode on the Holo Audio May DAC because he uses his own software on his desktop because he's a desktop user to oversample his way with his own software, which I forgot what the software was, but I'll probably link it down in the description below if I remember. Anyways, so depending on how you use it, like if you want to be like Golden Sound and use his third-party software to upsample and that sounds better to you, then you want a true non-oversampling DAC like the Holo Audio May. But for me, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because for me, whether it's truly non-oversampling or not, I am not using a third party to oversample. So this does have oversampling mode, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for the most part, I preferred it in the non-oversampling mode on the Holo Audio May. For me, on the Terminator PLUS, I like it on oversampling mode anyways. And I already said that in my previous Terminator PLUS review. So most of this review was done with the Terminator PLUS on oversampling mode and the Holo Audio May on non-oversampling mode. And I found these to be the best settings for each DAC. Now, the reason I like the Holo Audio May DAC on the non-oversampling setting is because I found it to be the smoothest mid-range tone and voices come sweet, and really the mid-range on the Holo Audio May DAC is what impresses me the most. It's like the tone, the guitar, the voices. If you listen to the overall presentation, it comes at you like almost like goosebumps because it feels like the singer is in the room. The instrument, you can physically feel the presence of it. The timbre, it's an amazing mid-range on this DAC. And that's why I like it. Now, that's what you get with a non-oversampling mode, but then when you oversample inside the unit, not talking about third party or anything like that, I don't do that, but, or at least not yet, with the oversampling mode built inside the DAC, I found that the bass was, like, things got wider and deeper, but I didn't find the bass and the overall, like, presence, like the overall warmth to be there. It's kind of like stretched out. Like if you imagine a pancake, right? You have one juicy pancake and you just go, But then if you spread it just to make it bigger, right? Now it's a thin pancake. Still the same pancake, but tastes different, right? It's not chunky pancake anymore that you like, juicy. Okay, jokes aside, hopefully that analogy made sense to you. If it didn't, I tried my best. The whole point is that I liked the non-oversampling on the Holo Audio May because it sounded like what it's supposed to sound like. Like that was the best setting that sounded best to me. The smoothest, the most liquid, the most correct mid-range, the most correct scale just sounded better to me. So if I'm getting the Holo Audio May, I would get it for the non-oversampling mode. And if you really wanted to upscale, I would use a third party like Golden Sound and upscale your life away. Use the right filters that you want and do all the crazy stuff that desktop warriors do. But for me, I'm perfectly happy with the non-oversampling mode on the Holo Audio. On the Terminator Plus, I already mentioned this, but I prefer the oversampling mode, and I explained why in the Terminator Plus review, so you can watch that video if you're interested in that. But again, overall sound, as you can probably tell, very, very different, but it's almost like if you prefer coffee or tea. You see, okay, maybe that's a bad analogy. What are you thinking, Jay? But I prefer both. Like, I love coffee and I love my matcha tea. So if you tell me to choose one or the other, I'm just like, no, I need both. And that's exactly what these DACs are. And that's rare for me because with speakers, right, I get this all the time. Like one's so good at this, the other one's so good at that. But with DACs especially, I don't really get that, right? Like I usually like as the performance goes up. But this is, man, so good on its own. Like each of them are so good on its own terms that it's just so hard to pick. Why do you have to be both so good? So if I would say that if your system is a little bit bright and you want a DAC that doesn't make things bright and you hate that bright sound characteristic like Fusion, then I would say Holo Audio May, 100%. But if you're someone that likes a little bit of brightness, likes a lot of detail, or if your system is already very warm sounding with tube amplifiers and stuff like that, and you want some added resolution, added micro nuances, Terminator Plus is a killer, baby. Now there's a few other things that I do have to mention. So for the test I did, the Holo Audio May DAC, Holo Audio guys recommend to use it with the Holo Audio Serene preamplifier, which is their own preamplifier. And it makes sense that they would want you to use their preamplifier because that's another purchase. But according to them, the reason is not just because of money, but because the Holo Audio May DAC is so good and they found that preamplifiers in the market just didn't do the job. So they wanted to build a preamplifier from the ground up just for the Holo Audio May. And so that's what the Serene is. So technically the Serene is supposed to be like transparent and no sound. I found that to be true, but I also found that when I was using the Serene preamplifier with the Holo Audio May, it sounded really, really good. Like to a point where, I think it was like made for the Holo Audio. It almost sounds like it's like just outputting, like almost like a passive unit, what the Holo Audio sounds like. There is no sound alteration. It's almost like a transparent sound that this preamplifier has. Now, how do I know this? Because
when I used the other preamplifiers like Doge 8 or from Denafrips and stuff like that, yeah, there were sound changes, but those sound changes also aligned with what I heard with other units, other DACs, for example, with those preamplifiers. So those preamplifiers, I already know the sound very well, and so I knew that the changes were happening to the original sound of the Holo Audio May DAC.
If you're following what I'm saying. So with the Holo Audio Serene, it sounded best and also sounded like I was hearing the Holo Audio May DAC a lot more. That smoothness and liquidness and stuff like that. I also used the Terminator Plus with the Serene preamplifier, and God, that was a great combo. So I really really enjoyed the Serene preamplifier. It's a winner for me in terms of preamplifier for solid state. But again, it doesn't have much of a coloration or a certain type of sound characteristic in my opinion. So if your DAC is like the Holo Audio May DAC or the Terminator PLUS, and if you really like that sound and you just don't want any other coloration or sound profile added by the preamplifier, then the Serene is it. But if you want to add like tube characteristic, like the Doge 8 tube preamplifier and so on, then you would just get a preamplifier that has a certain sound characteristic that complements the DAC you have. But again, if you're getting the Serene preamplifier, I think your source and your DAC has to be really good, or it's just not gonna sound right because it really just inputs and outputs whatever it gets. So at the end of the day, these DACs are not inexpensive, but I think it's a bargain because both of these companies, remember, are direct consumer model, meaning that they're skipping the distributor and the dealer margins. So that's partially why they can give it to you for such a low price compared to MSB DACs that are $20,000, $30,000, or it makes it seem like I'm picking on MSB, but that's because they are the leaders in ladder DACs. But whole point here is I'm trying to say there's a lot of DACs out there that's very, very expensive that I'm sure sounds incredible, and I've heard some of those that sound incredible because I used to work at a high-end retail store. But at the end of the day, I think this is where it really stops for me, because after this, it's not a matter of the overall performance, like it sounds so much better, but more like, kind of preference. Like I prefer this sound versus that sound. Oh, I like this a little bit more. So in terms of overall performance, I think that even though these DACs are under $7,000, both DACs, Terminator PLUS and the Holo Audio May, even though they're under $7,000, I truly think that they can compete head to head with DACs in like $20,000, $30,000, $10,000, whatever price ranges, because at the end of the day, performance has a cap, right? And I think this is where the diminishing return really, really kicks in. And I'm not saying that diminishing return didn't kick in for these either. I mean, there are lower tier DACs like the Spring 3 for the Holo Audio May, or the Pontus or the Venus for the Denafrips DACs, even the original Terminator. Those get close. Those get close, don't get me wrong. Those are fantastic DACs as well. That gets very close to the performance of these flagship DACs for a fraction of the price. But if you want the best, like the last little bit, like I'm talking about like 15, maybe 20% more performance, right? Just a little bit more. And if your system is already there, right? Your speakers are top notch, your amplifiers are top notch, a high-end system, a dedicated room and stuff like that, then yeah, and if you have the budget, then yeah, I don't see why not. I think this is where it stops though, at least for me. That may change in the future, who knows? But so far from everything I've heard, I think these DACs are just top two choices for me. And I think I said a similar thing in my Terminator Plus review, and I still stand by it now. I think both DACs are phenomenal, and I don't think that's gonna change anytime soon. So that's pretty much it from me. I'm not gonna cover like the inputs and outputs and stuff like that. At this price point, they should, and both of these DACs have plenty inputs and outputs and you can go to their website to see the diagram. I'm not gonna waste your time showing you everything. At this price point, they practically have everything you possibly need. But again, that's pretty much it. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. I will probably let you know if I choose one or the other in the future, but right now I really can't choose either one, and I just want you to know that either one is fine. It doesn't necessarily always end up one being better than the other. Sometimes there's no such a thing. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.